guys, it's me, Miss Mary, coming in. I'm still doing my series or episodes of a little series on investing. This is where my life is right now, where I have landed uh, for right now. And so let's get started. Okay, now I wanted to tell you I don't have all of the exact numbers, and I don't want to give out exact numbers because my husband and I both are in this together. So it's not just Miss Mary money, and it's not just Miss Mary. So whatever I share with you, um, I have to be conscious of that I do have a husband that don't want me telling everything. So anyway, but you can rest assured that what I do share with you will be the truth and nothing but the truth. And also here to help you and to guide you. So I left off with why we went with Section 8. And I told you that I had a heart for Section 8 because I was a Section 8 mom myself. So that compassion was there. Well, along with that compassion being there, I did, just for to let you know, I did take classes. There was classes that you took for being a landlord because I've never been a landlord before. This kind of like just ended up in our laps that we ended up having the money, being able to become investors. It wasn't like my husband and I just said, oh yeah, we want to be investors. It was one of those things that just that God just evolved in us, that it just happened for us. You know what I mean? No regrets. No regrets whatsoever. But we were not setting out to be investors. Like, some people take classes and do all these things to be investors. No, it just kind of landed in our lap. As I said previously, go back and listen to the previous video. I kind of told a little bit about how my friend invited me to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that's where they talked about a lot about investments. And that's when I got bit by the bug. But anyway, so I said I was going to be sharing numbers with you and stuff like that. Now, I want to let you know that we have invested in different properties. I think I've already said that too, that I've done the Airbnb. I've done the corporate rental. You know what I mean? We've had, I've never owned commercial property because the property that we had in Hartford, Connecticut, it was a fiveplex, but in that town in Hartford, Connecticut, it had to be a sixplex to be considered commercial property. Now, I know that in some other countries, in some other states, like we owned in Kansas City, Missouri, anything above a 4 would be commercial property. But in Hartford, Connecticut, 5 was still considered commercial. Was considered residential. It was not commercial property. So you have to do your research and find out what the state was commercial property, because you can find a duplex. A duplex is not commercial property, but some states, 5 doors, as I told you before, can be considered uh, commercial property, and some it's not. So it just depends on what state you're in. Now, we're in the metro area. That's where we invested in. We did not buy a lot of duplexes and a lot of 3-family flat houses and stuff. Ours was single family homes that we invested in. And I just want to come on here because I want to be able to help you to understand, for those of you who are new at it, but yet and still just kind of give you some food for thought about it. The one thing I will say to you is, if you're thinking that this is an avenue that you want to get into, I would definitely tell you that you need to start reading books. You need to start educating yourself, um, and listen to more than just one person, because it's so many people on the internet talking about this. There's so many people on YouTube talking about it. And there's a guy that I follow, and he comes on and debunked a lot of things people say, Because a lot of people are here just saying, oh man, if you're struggling, you can buy a house with no money down. Now, I'm not saying that you can't buy a house with no money down. Yes, you can probably get a house with no money down. My tenant just bought a house and she was on Section 8 and she didn't put any money down. You know what I mean? Section 8 put the money down. So I do believe that you can buy a house with no money down. I don't know all the avenues of that. That wasn't my story. We weren't trying to buy a house with no money down because we had money to purchase the homes. I will say this, that if that is something that you want to do or you feel compelled to do, get a mentor. Get somebody who's already in the business and get with them and talk with them. Not only that, go to the YouTube University and then try to get people who are going to tell you the raw and the truth, like I am over here. Not just somebody who's just going to sugarcoat it for you and say, oh, yeah, this is what you need to do. Because I will say this, it is a lot of work, especially if you're going to manage your own. And so to be involved with the people that you rent from and to be on top of your handyman, we had a fabulous handyman that we had for over 10 years. And that was, God sent him to us, you know what I mean? Because my husband, he's not handy at all. My husband's a hard working man. And his theory was he always went out and made the money. And if something broke in my house, he would always say, pay somebody, give somebody a job because I already got one. So, but you got to get your partners and you got to get your people. Not to say that you can't learn how to do some of these things. Like there are some things I do myself. Um, like I'm more on the cleaning side of it. I'm more on the little things, you know what I'm saying? But not necessarily, I'm not in there cutting down, taking down walls and installing dishwashers and all that kind of, no, I'm not doing all that stuff. My thing is more on the cleaning side of it. But also, I will tell you that number one, get your money right. Because just because you're an investor, you have money, even once you buy the property, and this applies to owning a home. Think about it like this. Once you get that home, once you buy a house, or once you buy an investment piece of property, it doesn't just stop there. It's not like you're going to get all this money, mailbox money, as people like to call it. It doesn't work like that. Yes, the money does come in, but the money goes out as well. Nobody's talking about the money that goes out. I'm going to give you one example financially because I said I would give you, and this is just one of our pieces of property that I'm going to talk about. First of all, we bought it over 16 years ago when the market crashed and houses was cheaper than cars. I've said that a million times over here. And because we bought it when things had crashed, it worked for us. So we paid like for one of our properties, I'm not sure the one that I'm thinking of, I'm not exact with the numbers, but I can tell you it was like $20,000 or a little less. Let's just stick at the $20,000 mark. So $20,000 for this piece of property, okay? Pay cash for it. At that time, the realtor wasn't making a lot of money. I think she only got like $500 for selling the house to us. It was an as-is house. There was nothing. The windows weren't the best. The roof was good. The furnace was old. It was huge. It was like the size of a nursery, or shall I say, the size of a walk-in closet. Huge, big, old furnace. And I remember looking at her and saying, "Oh, we're gonna need a furnace." She said, "No." She said, "If it works, don't bother it. Just get somebody in here and start making your money. And then when it goes down, then you replace it." That was the best advice that somebody ever gave to me. She said, "No." I was ready to, okay, we got to replace the furnace and we got to do this and we got to do that. And she was like, "No, if the furnace works, turn it on. And if it works, just get somebody in here so you can start recouping your money back and start saving. And then when it's time to get a furnace." Do you not know that furnace, we just replaced that furnace. We had the property 16 years. I want to say over the last 8 years. That furnace lasted us about 10 years, about, I want to say at least 8, 9 years. I kid you not. I couldn't believe it. And I had to have it inspected. I had to have it cleaned every year and everything, took good care of it. And then when it died, it just died. That was the best advice to me. The same thing about the windows, the house did need windows, but we didn't never get a chance to put windows in. That's the one that I'm putting windows in now. Because like I told you, she was a smoker and we didn't go in and do anything, any upkeeps or any upgrades. I just mainly made repairs on the property as needed. When there was something broken, I fixed it. You know what I mean? When there's something, the furnace went out, we replaced it. When the hot water heater went out, we replaced it. Whatever repairs we had to do, we did them. Now, I will say to you that so starting out 16 years ago, I rented the house out for like $850 a month, and this person was on Section 8. So the average of what I got from that was like $10,200 a month. I mean, a year. That's what I got for that house. So in 2 years, I've made my money back, but not quite. It really was more like 4 years because you got to remember, okay, let's say I made $10,200. I probably need to break this down a little bit better, but we're just talking. For the average person who's an investor, they probably have a mortgage. We didn't have a mortgage. So all the money that came in was ours. Now, out of that money, out of that $850 that came in every month, I didn't have a $400 mortgage, a $500 mortgage. We didn't have mortgages. So all the money was ours, except for on that property, we had to pay the taxes. You've got your summer taxes and your winter taxes. I'm going to say, just rounding things up, I'm not giving exact numbers over here and stuff. Let's just say, for instance, that was $2,000. That was summer and winter taxes. I'm pretty much in the ballpark of that. Okay, then when you place your property up for sale with whatever town you're in, our place was at East Point. Well, East Point had to come in and inspect the property. And in order for my property to be listed with them, I'm going to show you a little thing here without trying to show the property, the actual property name. East Point comes in and they will give you a certification. I had to get our property certified because my hubby and I, we didn't fly under the radar. We didn't try to cheat the system or nothing. So for that, they charge you. They charge us back then. Now it's like $300, but when we first started, it was only like $135 for you to certify your property with them. Now, I will say, uh, if I was an investor, I would certify my property just for the mere fact. And I know people probably run under the radar and people say, hey, the city don't need to know, they don't need the money. I kind of liked having that extra security. Like if anything happened, if a fire happened, anything happened, to say, you guys certified the property. Even as leverage with my tenants, I liked having that. Now, that didn't say that Section 8 didn't come in. So Section 8 didn't charge me. But once a year, they would come in. And when Section 8 would come in, they would find things. And they would say, oh, you need to fix this. Oh, you need to fix that. Oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. Little things or sometimes big things. They had a list of things that had to be checked off. I can kind of go through that a little bit. This is a lot, you know. But anyway, Section 8 you wouldn't be caught off guard. You can go on their website and they have the little list of things they look for. They look for make sure the windows lock. They look for to make sure like if the person is moving on your property, are you providing the stove and the refrigerator, or if the person is bringing their own? If they're bringing their own stove and refrigerator, it has to be in the property when he comes to inspect the property for the very first time. and it would have to continue to be there, but it has to be in the property so that they can turn the stove on, check the refrigerator, make sure everything's working. They make sure that you have the smoke alarms. Now they've got the new carbon dioxide plus smoke detectors, and they cost about $60 each, and you have to put those in. Those are the ones that last for 10 years. And they want them in every room, one in each bedroom, one in the hallway, one in the kitchen, and they want one on each level. So upstairs in my bungalow, I had to put one, then I had to put one down in the basement. So there was 3 bedrooms. Well, upstairs was a bedroom, so count that. That's 3 bedrooms. The hallway, that's 4. The kitchen, that's 5. In the basement, that's 6. So I had to buy 6 smoke detectors at like $60. So you do the math. But also, along with that, getting back to the money that you will spend out, and people don't talk about this. See, we managed our own, so there was no property manager. I didn't have to pay a property manager because I managed them. And most property managers now are getting 10 to 15% of the rent. Whatever your rent is, that's how much. If your rent is $1,000, he gets 10% of that every month, which would be $100 a month that you're paying this person to check on your property, to make sure everything is right, to basically stand in the gap for you. Okay, but we didn't have to pay that because I was the property manager. Then we had to pay, like I said, you have to pay East Point. Don't forget about insurance. You have to insure your property. So you got to pay for insurance. Our insurance ran us like $100 a month. So that's another, what, $1,200 a year because it was a brick house. So the insurance was a little more expensive. Then you've got your repairs, and that can fluctuate. So on an average, I'm just going to say because we did own it outright, like I said, not giving exact numbers because, hubby don't want, telling all the business. But for the most part, it is like if I made $10,200 and didn't have to pay a mortgage out of that, by the time I got through with taxes and insurance and got through with 20% for repairs and um, paying East Point. Don't forget now, when Section 8 come in once a year and they do their inspection, now you got to make the repairs that they require too. Their repairs and stuff, nothing was about cleanliness. They never addressed the cleanliness. That's why the property looked the way it looked. Their concerns were ventilation, windows, um, the furnace, your furnace, your hot water heater. It was all the main things that keep the property going, like leaky faucets, make sure there was no water leaking under the sinks and stuff like that. How the person kept the property, they was not concerned with that. They never ever addressed that. Um, that was the main thing that Section 8 was concerned with. Now, even when East Point came in, the city, their thing was they was concerned about the curb appeal outside. Was the lawn being cut? At some point, um, one of the they was responsible for cutting the lawn, but I was getting bills because they weren't cutting the grass like they should have been cutting the grass. And so you get fined. And then who pays those fines? You can say all day long, you got to pay this. This is $140. This is $130 because city came out, cut the grass because the grass was too high. You end up paying it because it goes on your taxes. Now, I know I'm giving you a whole mouthful here, but I'm saying to you, you've got to look at it because most people, if you had a mortgage and you had to pay out plus on top of that, let's say $400. Now, how much do you think you're making now? Now, if you're in it for the long haul and you buy it as an investment, then that's a good thing. If you're buying it and you like my daughter and I was talking about, people are not putting money in college funds anymore. What they're doing is buying like a house or something and holding on to that house for their child, so when they graduate they can sell the house or whatever. So that's making a real wise decision. Buy in an up and coming area, buy something that you know that the value is going to go up, you know. So when they tell you that it's not a lot of money, like people will make you think, especially if you have a mortgage. You know what I'm saying? Plus, you're paying out. It depends on if you're going to manage your own property, or if you're going to have a property manager. So there are things that you're going to have to pay out, and people don't talk about that. They just make it seem like, oh yeah, you're just going to get this money. Another thing I want to talk about too is when you rent to Section 8, that's a little different clientele, shall I say. And we rent it to nurses, we rent it to working class people and stuff, people who on paper they could afford the house, you know what I mean? But did they pay the bills? No. But with Section 8, you have to remember too, like, I remember one incident, and I'm just going to tell about this one. Section 8 came in and they looked at the property, and this particular person, this is not my tenant who bought a house. This was another, because like I said, we own several. And so this particular person, the door was like, you could tell somebody had taken their foot and was beating it, trying to kick the door in. Boom, boom. You can almost see the foot imprint on the, well, it was all dented up. So I'm assuming they was using their foot. I don't think they used a hammer or nothing like that. But anyway, so then by the time Section 8 came, and they said, and the door was wonky. It was off. It wasn't sealing tight. It wasn't tight. You know, you could tell it had been tampered with. You know, somebody was trying to get in. And I turned to the person and I said, "Well, what's going on?" "I don't know. The door's been like that since I moved in." And that was another thing. You deal with a lot of like just people just don't want to own up to what they've done. They don't want to say, hey, this is what happened. I apologize. This is what was going on. You'll get a lot of that. I mean, I can tell you some stories I've heard from my purse got snatched, my ATM ain't working, this happened, that happened, my cousin died, my dog died. I mean, I can give you some stories about why people haven't paid their portion of the rent. But anyway, so Section 8, when I pointed it out to him, I said, that's not on me. Now, you were here last year and that door was fine. The year before, the year before, the year before. Now the door, you can tell somebody tried to kick the door in. So the guy did write it up, and now they have the tenant responsibility and the landlord's responsibility. So he said, you're right, that's not on you. So he put the door on her, that it was her responsibility to get it fixed. Now with Section 8, they give you 30 days. They come out, they inspect your place. Usually it's like they time it really good because they know when to time it, so that if things are not right, they know how to stop your money. So usually it's like the top of the month, like about the 5th or 6th of the month, they'll come out. And then they give you 30 days to get whatever repairs and stuff done. That goes for you and that goes for the tenant. So this particular tenant, I'm calling her. I've made all the repairs that he's asked me to make. Now I'm calling her saying, have you had the door repaired? No, I don't have any money. Okay, 2 weeks is time for the guy to come. Have you had the door replaced? No, I haven't had the door replaced. I don't have the money. A week before Section 8's getting ready to come. Have you had the door replaced? Repaired? No, I haven't had the door replaced. Repaired. I had to send my guy over to fix the door that was on her, because they have what they call an abatement. And once the guy comes out and inspects it, and if all those things on that list is not done, they put you in what they call an abatement, which means he's going to go back to his car and he's going to get on his computer and they're going to stop your money. And you're not going to be able to get it back. So he put it in that computer, did not meet the requirements. Everything was not repaired. Everything was not fixed. Once they stop the money, they'll give you another 30 days. But even if it's a day or two, they're not going to back up and give you that money. So if your money is coming out on the 5th, he comes on the 4th, and that repair is not made. He's going to go and punch in that computer that the repairs was not made. And now, so that check that you were going to get on the 5th, and they can stop it really quick, really, really quick. You're not going to get it. Okay, let's say you say, okay, I can get somebody out here and I can have it done by the 8th. Well, he's already stopped that money that you were going to get for the 5th. There's no makeup. They're not going to say, okay, well, for 4 days the house was wasn't up to standards. No, you've missed it. Now, not unless they've changed it. You'll miss out on 30 days worth of money. So what do you think Miss Mary did? Miss Mary fixed the door because it wasn't going to be worth it. If Section 8 is paying me $800 a month, and all she's paying is $50 a month, and the door needs to be fixed, otherwise I'm going to miss out on $800. I'm going to go ahead and get the door fixed. So people would say like my husband and I, we went and rented a place in North Carolina, and this lady had these rules. Like, she even told us what to clean the stove with, what to clean the hardwood floors with, what to do. It doesn't work like that with Section 8, because first of all, you got to remember you're dealing with low income people, and low income people, when they do have a little extra money, they're not trying to buy no trash bags with it. They're not trying to fix the screen door with that money. They're not trying to do anything to that home when they have a little extra money. So when you're renting to Section 8, you can't implement all of these rules like you would with a working person. With the woman who was a nurse that we rented to, I could I could say to her, you need to fix the door. And she would have to fix the door. But then Section 8 was not involved there. You see what I'm saying? This was her paying rent and no Section 8 involved. Then she would have to fix the door. Or I would have to fight with her or take it off her deposit or whatever, So just know that it's a good thing. I'm not here to bash or say no, don't do it. I would definitely say it's a good ride if you have the heart for it. It has to be bigger than money. I'm going to say that, and I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to come back. But it has to be bigger than the money. It has to have a purpose behind it. And my purpose was I wanted to help Section 8 people. Number one, we wanted to put our money to use. Let me start with that. We wanted to put our money to good use. We prayed and asked God to give us wisdom with the money, because we didn't want to squander the money or look back and we don't know what happened to the money. Like Dave Ramsey said, tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So we wanted to be wise with the money. And then I wanted to help Section 8 people once we decided this is what we want to do. So we had purpose with becoming an investor as far as who we really wanted to help. And I feel that I've done that. I feel like I have helped, because for the most part, I have a pretty good relationship with most of them. And I will tell you that times are different and times have changed. I got a story to tell you about one of the properties that we had in Hartford. It's a very interesting story about that one. So you've got to do your homework and you got to know, and it has to be bigger than the money. It has to be What's your purpose? What's your end goal? What's your end goal? If you're buying it and you're going to rent it and you're going to hold on to it for 16 years until your kid go to college and then you're going to flip it and sell it, that's fine. Because right now, my husband and I are flipping our house, and we're going to make some really good money. Lord willing, we're gonna do really, really well with the house that we paid less than $20,000, and we rented it out for 16 years. So I started out at 850 with her, and by the time she moved, I was up to 1250. I didn't go up every year. I didn't, because I think because we didn't have a mortgage and things wasn't pressing me, you know what I mean? And like I said, back to what I said to you too, we had a good relationship, you know. Um, okay, guys, just coming in and doing this series on being an investor and just sharing from a personal note, not so much all the logistics of it and money of it, but I just want to give you food for thought about it. I will tell you this too, that if you really, really, really want to do it, you need to start positioning yourself right now for if the market does crash, if there's a house that becomes available. What does that mean, Miss Mary, positioning yourself? That means you need to start cooking, baby girl, and quit eating out all the time. You need to start putting some money away. That means you need to learn how to be a little bit more wiser with your money. Sometimes maybe instead of getting your nails done every 2 weeks, maybe you can just let them go for a while, like Miss Mary. I've let my nails go because why? I've been going down there cleaning and scrubbing. What's the point of me having going and spending $50 to get my nails done when I know I'm gonna be, even with the gloves on and using all these harsh chemicals and stuff, the TSP and the degreaser and all that stuff. I just feel better knowing I don't even have them done so that I can get in there and do what needs to be done. Wearing gloves to protect my hand, of course, but at the same time, knowing I'm not wasting money. You're going to have to make some sacrifices, some real sacrifices, because your end goal is to own property. So if you want to own property, and let's say you've got, your money is only going to go so far. So it's better to be ready, as they said, rather than trying to get ready. So if an opportunity came right now and somebody said, you can get this house for $5,000, would you have it? Would you have it? Would you have to scrounge for it? Would you have to go beg, borrow? Or would you just have it because I've cut back on some things in my life that's not important? You've got to set goals, and when you set those goals, you've got to say, okay, I'm going to leave this off for a while. I'm going to not eat out as much. Maybe once a week we'll go and we'll eat out. And maybe I won't get my nails done, or I'll do them at home. Maybe I'll go get my hair braided up and leave it for 6 weeks. I'm not going to be going to the hairdresser every 2 weeks. You know, another thing is just learning how to stretch your money. Watching Miss Mary and not having to buy toothpaste and deodorant, that money can be going in the kiddies. And, kids, we're saving for a house. And one day we're going to be ready. Because a lot of times opportunities will come. But if you don't have the money, it does you no good. It's just like if I said to you, um, I'll I'll sell you this pen for 10 cents. You need a pen, you need a pen, you need a pen. You need it desperately because you need to sign some documents. That's so important. And you don't have a pen. And I said, okay, well, I'll sell you this one for 10 cents. Let's just say I said that. And you don't have 10 cents. Now you can't sign the document. That is very, very important because you don't have the 10 cents. That's just an example of being ready. But if I said, oh, I got pens and I'll sell you one of these for 10 cents. And you say, oh, okay, hold on. And you dig in your purse, give me the 10 cents, and you got your pen, you just sign your document, and you're on your way. Life is like that. Got to be ready. Be ready for what? It's going to come down through the pipe. And how do you be ready? You can't be out here buying the latest and the greatest all the time. You know what I mean? You're going to have to learn how to just be content with what you have. You don't have to be the fashionista. You know what I'm saying? Your kids don't have to have on the latest and the greatest. You know, they need to be clean and they need to be presentable just like you yourself. But you've got to learn, where can I cut the fat out? Where can I save? If you've got $100, then you've got to figure out, how can I save at least $10 of this $100? Where can I pull the $10 out of this? You got to figure it out and be ready, be in position so that when something comes. I often think about, like, when I go to estate sales and stuff, people are selling things. Sometimes it's so cheap, but if you don't have the money, it doesn't matter how cheap it is, because you can't buy it anyway. Why? Because you got to make good choices with the money that you do have coming in. I'm not saying you got a buttload of money. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you're going to have to try to figure out, how can I preserve, or how can I save what I have? Ask God to give you wisdom on, what can I do? How can I save? Save by doing the toothpaste Miss Mary taught you. Save by doing the deodorant Miss Mary taught you. Save by making your own mouthwash that Miss Mary taught you. Those $5 and $10 will add up. I was looking at this guy on YouTube that was talking about how he lost his job and ain't got no job. And then I'm seeing him up there. He going to Starbucks, and him and his girlfriend or wife or whatever, they drinking lattes and everything. And I'm like, what? How are you drinking lattes? But that's a story for another time. That's Miss Mary being a mother. I'm a mother. All right. Love you guys.